I'd like to recognize, for the record, the presence of Secretary Joseph Emilio Abaya, Secretary of the Department of Transportation and Communications, Undersecretary Rene Limcauco, also of the DOTC, Jaime Fortunato Caringal, Mr. Caringal, Assistant Secretary, DOTC, and Miguel Enrico Paala, Project Officer. Mr. Paala, where are you? Thank you. Along with Undersecretary Julianito Bucayan. We don't have anybody yet here from the NEDA. From the PPP office, Ms. Cosette Canilao, Executive Director, Mr. Juan Alberto Mercado, Assistant Director, and Ms. Cristina Azela Diza, Project Manager. From the Development Bank of the Philippines, Mr. Jose Nunez, Chairman, Ms. Susan Prado, Head of the Financial Resource Sector, Mr. Francis Nicolas Chua, Vice President for Investment Banking, and Ms. Maria Elise Gaiban, am I pronouncing that correctly? Manager for Investment Banking. From the Philippine Ports Authority, Mr. Raul Santos. Mr. Santos, where are you? Assistant General Manager. We do not have the representative from the Port Management Office of Davao. Do you know if he will be coming? Oh, very good. Mr. Leonilo Miole. From the private sector and the Davao Chamber, from the Asian Nature Energy Corporation, Mr. Peter Tiu Lavinia. Peter, where are you? Here. Okay. From the Davao City Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. John Gaisano, former president but chairman of the board, Mr. Antonio de la Cruz, president, the vice president for Trade and Commerce, Mr. Bonifacio Tan, Mr. Bonifacio Licayan, Mr. Licayan here, yes, Mr. Giovanni Pimentel, and Mr. Jesse Chongson, representing the International Container Terminal Services, Inc., Mr. Jose Manuel de Jesus. From the Filipinas Port Services, Mr. Henry Lopez Chua. Yes, Mr. Chua and Harry Lopez Chua. And from ANFLO in Management and Investment Corporation, Mr. Alexander Valoria. Good morning. Mr. Reynoso of NEDA has just arrived, so we'd like to acknowledge, where's Ruben? Mr. Ruben Reynoso of the National Economic Development Authority. Now, gentlemen, we call this hearing today because we have received several complaints over the past few months from the business sector of Davao region, that the new proposed expansion of the Sasa port, which is almost due for bidding, would cause an inordinate jump in the cost to shippers, both importers and exporters of goods, because of the cost of the port itself. Now, just by way of background, there seemed to have been an earlier study for the expansion of the port, which was costed at about 4 billion pesos sometime in 2010, 2011. You can correct me later. And the latest number that we were shown was that the port would now cost in the vicinity of 19 billion pesos or thereabouts. Now, we also are aware or made aware that there are 2 new ports that are being developed in the vicinity of that Davao region, one in Tagum by the Anflocor Group, and another one further north in around Mako. Would that be Mako? Or where the Iho plantation is? Oh, Panabo.
Anflocor in Panabo, sir.
Anflocor in Panabo. And
we are in Tagum, yes.
Right. So then you're going to have more than sufficient port facilities to service the importers and exporters, particularly the banana industry. So the committee would like you to put on record, especially Mr. Secretary and Ms. Canilao of the PPP, the reasons for the numbers that we're looking at and justifying the costs, justifying the size of the port that you propose to undertake, and making comparisons with the cost that the other ports, the two ports north of Sasa, would be charging, and why you feel that the shippers, especially of the banana product, would still be using Sasa when they would be sited closer to Iho and to Panabo. So without further ado, Secretary Abaya, I understand that the DOTC had a statement to make this morning, or wanted to make a presentation, a PowerPoint.
We'd make our presentation, Your Honor.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think ED Cosette Canila would want to make the presentation first before we'd make our presentation, if you would allow.
All right, ladies first.
Thank you so much. Honorable Senator Sergius Mena, members of the committee, and the distinguished guests. Thank you for inviting the PPP Center to the Senate inquiry. The PPP Center is a government agency attached to the NEDA and is mandated by law to coordinate and monitor PPP projects under the Build, Operate, Transfer Law. Pursuant to our mandate, we advise, assist government agencies and local government units in 4 stages of project cycle: in preparation, in securing approval, during procurement, and during implementation. PPPs, or public-private partnerships, involve the construction and operation of public infrastructure, delivering public services. In other developing countries, PPPs are the key to unlocking development and delivering public services to the people. Under President Aquino, the Philippine PPP program has resulted in the award of 12 economic and social infrastructure projects, including the recently opened MCX, or Muntinlupa-Cavite Expressway, or formerly the Anghari, the school buildings around the country, and the Mactan-Cebu International Airport. With your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, I would like to give a brief overview of the PPP process for the Davao Sasa Port Modernization Project, which is the subject of this inquiry. In 2012, the project was made a priority PPP project of the Department of Transportation and Communications, a government agency undertaking a billion peso infrastructure project usually engages consultants to provide technical, financial, and legal advice for project development, approval, and procurement. For the Davao Sasa project, DOTC and the DOTC engaged the government-owned Development Bank of the Philippines through its advisory services group as the lead transaction advisor under a government-to-government arrangement. DBP then engaged sub-consultants, including the International Finance Corporation, or IFC, for the finance aspect of the project, the Salon Group for engineering, and the Hamburg Port Consulting for port operations. Prior to engagement of the transaction advisors by DOTC, the Philippine Ports Authority, or PPA, has commissioned another consulting group, Science and Vision for Technology, Inc., or SVTI, to conduct a feasibility study on the modernization of the Davao Port. The SVTI study recommended increasing port capacity from the existing 700,000 20-foot equivalent units, or TEUs, to 743,000 TEUs until year 2021. Upon their engagement, the transaction advisors, DBP, IFC, and the rest, were instructed to vet the SVTI study. After review, an independent study on trends in the ASEAN region, the transaction advisors recommended increasing port capacity to 1.2 million TEUs until 2040. Thus, the transaction advisors recommended a project that is bigger in scope and magnitude and offered a longer-term solution to the problem of port congestion and growing container traffic. The BOT law requires 2 levels of approvals for a PPP project as big as the Davao Sasa Port. First, it is the approval of the NEDA Investment Coordination Committee, or the ICC, which is chaired by the Finance Secretary and co-chaired by the NEDA Secretary, and composed of 5 department secretaries and the Bangko Central Governor. Second is the approval of the NEDA Board, which is chaired by the President and composed of around 20 department secretaries and other government officials. The project was approved as a project of the DOTC and PPA as co-grantors. The ICC gave its approval on August 22, 2014, and the NEDA Board on October 17, 2014. The BOT law requires a fair and transparent public bidding to select a private sector partner. So genuine competition through open bidding will result in the best deal or price for the government and ultimately for the Filipino people. The DOTC and PPA published the invitation to bid and commenced the procurement process on April 15, 2015. The BOT law requires a two-stage procurement process. First, interested parties will apply to be pre-qualified. For Davao Sasa, 5 have pre-qualified, all well-known international and local port operators and players. The Asia Terminals, Inc. with the Dubai Port World Consortium, Valor Africa Logistics, International Container Terminal Services, Inc., Portec International Pte. Limited, and with the National Marine Corporation Consortium, the San Miguel Holdings Corporation with the APM Terminals Management. Second, pre-qualified bidders will have to submit their bid proposal. The target bid proposal submission date for this project is in February of next year. Based on PPP Center's participation during the development, approval, and procurement stages of the Davao Sasa Port project, we believe that the project followed the processes required under the BOT law. We are not aware of any activity that deviated from the standard practice for other successfully awarded PPP projects. I understand that the OTC will discuss the details of the estimated cost for the project. I just wish to make 3 points. First, the estimated cost is for a project that involves several phases of port expansion over a period of 30 years as the need arises. The estimated cost is not just to rehabilitate the existing port. Second, the estimated cost includes the cost of development, detailed design, civil works construction, and equipment procurement and installation. Third, we emphasize that as with all other PPP projects, the estimated project cost is merely government's estimate of the cost. One important purpose of PPP is to harness private sector innovation and efficiency. Thus, the winning bidder's actual cost to meet the required standards may be much less than the government's estimated cost. Projects under Republic Act 9184 or the Government Procurement Reform Act focus on output and require the winning bidder to build strictly in accordance to the government's design. In contrast, PPP projects focus on outcome and allow the winning bidder to use its own design so long as it meets the required standard of service. Bottom line, the government's cost estimate is not mandatory or binding upon any bidder. The project is necessary because of the growing economy and container traffic in Mindanao. It will result in the transformation of the existing port into a modern international standard container terminal that will significantly increase operational performance, reduce vessel waiting times, and attract large foreign container vessels. This in turn will reduce shipping costs for import and export cargoes from Mindanao and create a globally competitive economic hub and stimulate economic development. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the statement.
Thank you, Ms. Canilao. Did the DOTC wish to make a presentation too?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you like to proceed?
Okay. May I call on Yusek Lim Cauco to present the...
Certainly.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. We have a brief presentation just to serve as a background of the project. First slide, please. Second slide, please. So this will give an idea of why we wanted to do this project. Primarily, the Davao region is one of the fastest growing regions in the country. And 2, banana exports is one of our prime exports. And with these 2, we anticipated, or we would like to think that a modern containerized port would support the Davao economy, and the growth of the banana exports. Second slide. So in front of you, Mr. Chairman, is a layout of the existing Davao port. It has significantly deteriorated. In fact, some sections, there are holes already on the wharf, so you can actually see the sea bottom. It's an old port. It was not designed for container handling, and it had its peak volume in 2011 at 500,000 TEUs, and this has been declining because it's an old port.
The peak was
572,000 TEUs.
572,000 TEUs. That's 20-foot equivalent unit.
Yes.
Okay. And this was in 2011.
11.
And last year, what was it?
In 2013, do we have the figures for 2013? Is 406,000.
All right. I saw a number that it went down to as low as 230,000.
Yes, I understand. It is tracking Miola here. So for 2011, for 2015, Mr. Miole. Mr. Miole.
Mr. Miole.
2015. Yes, sir. 2015, what does the Davao Sasa?
2015.
What's the projection for Davao Sasa?
The projection is, I'm just going to tell you the actual for 2015. Would that be
Okay. You have the actual as of what? October 31st?
As of October
November 30.
2015, total container port Sasa is 249,000
249,000 for 10 months.
for 10 months,
So it should reach about 300.
both foreign and domestic.
All right. Now, so there's been a drop from a peak of 572,000 TEUs in 2011 to about 249,000, maybe
Yes, sir.
a little more, 300,000 in this year.
Yes, sir.
All right. Please continue.
So third slide, please. So what the project will do is give, in the end, make Davao more competitive as an economy in that region as against the ASEAN neighbors by giving a modern port. What the modern port will deliver, Mr. Chairman, currently the old port is small and cannot attract or cannot accommodate large ships. The draft is only 11 meters. So the new Davao port will give a deeper draft to 14 meters. This means that up to 9,000 TEU ships can now dock in the new Davao Sasa, as compared to right now the ships that dock in the old Davao Sasa. Right now is about 500 to 700 TEUs.
When you say 9,000 TEU ships, that would be more pertinent to the exports, di ba? Because we don't import that much.
Yes, in the end, the ships that will dock could be up to 9,000. They could be, the ships could be calling on several ports, Mr. Chairman. So they might unload 2,000 TEUs in Davao, then go to
I see.
Malaysia.
Okay, all right.
So like a big bus. So and with larger container ships, shipping costs decrease. It's similar to the airfare of a turboprop versus the airfare in a A320. The larger the ships or the larger the planes, the lower the airfares. Sorry, the transportation fare. The second, by containerizing it, we will be able to load and unload the ships much faster. Right now, the old Davao Sasa, there are no container cranes. So it can take up to around 40 hours to unload the ship. When it's containerized, you can unload the ship up to maybe 4 to 6 hours. So that will definitely attract the shipping companies to start docking because their ships will not be tied up in the port, loading and unloading. Third is the yard capacity. Right now, the old Davao Sasa only has 864 container ground slots or parking slots for the containers. The project will increase the container ground slots from 864 to 1,900 in phase 1 and up to 2,700 in phase 2. An increase in ground slots gives you more flexibility, obviously gives you more capacity to handle more containers, and gives you more efficient throughput because there's just more space and more organized, a more systematic way of stacking the containers. Next slide, please. So in front of you, Mr. Chair, is the indicative, and that this is the indicative design of the new Davao Sasa, wherein up to phase 2, it can accommodate up to 3 large 9,000 TEU vessels. Essentially, Mr. Chairman, this will allow, all of this combined will allow the new Davao Sasa to process up to 1.2 million TEUs per year in a very quick and efficient manner in order for Davao Sasa to compete with its neighboring ports. Last slide, please. So in a nutshell, all of this, what is the benefit to the Davao economy? The foremost benefit is lower net costs for exporters and importers because of just more efficient port operations. So that means lower prices to the consumers due to lower logistic costs, lower cost to the banana exporters because of reduced spoilage, quicker processing, and for the others, for the existing port workers, they will be offered employment to the new concessionaire as in all of our PPPs. So that's the end, Mr. Chair. It's a brief presentation just for background.
Thank you. Now, let's hear from the Davao Chamber. Who'd like to speak on behalf of the Davao Chamber? John, you have the floor.
Hello. Okay. Well, the main concern of Davao City Chamber is its impact on the over 20 millions of Mindanaoans and hundreds of thousands of Mindanao businessmen. I'll explain later. All these seem like one simple, I don't know if I should use the word overpriced or overestimated project, but a problem this may or will cost to most of us Mindanaoans will last for 30 years, because that says 30 years. This simple act will affect an entire generation. I believe that we should take time to evaluate DOTC before they pursue with this. So I appreciate Secretary Abayo's sense of urgency as his term is about to end and election is coming. But the serious concerns should be addressed, and we believe that delay should be called for. Here are 8 points I want to raise. 1, it is not clear because the original proposal of 4 billion is now raised to 17 plus 2 billion, although you mentioned is no longer the case. But it seems like a moving target. But you see the difference of 13 billion is in excess of 4 billion. That's a cause of concern for all of us. But the required output is not so clear to the public. In short, it is unknown. Secondly, the bid, when it is awarded and the project starts to operate, PPP needs to allow the winning operator to increase the price by at least 276% for break-even. Okay, some of our partners here can answer that later. And thus propelling the increase of cost of shipment therefore increasing all prices of all goods entering through all the ports in Mindanao. So should 20 million Mindanaoans suffer and pay for this one simple act done in a hurry? We Mindanaoans need to be heard. Third point. There are one newly developed private port, which is the ICT, of international standard, and another one is on the way, ICTSI, on top of all the other existing port. All these ports will be challenged, will challenge the entry of a new and expensively developed 19B Davao City Sasa port, which should be done only to repair and improve the old ports based on what is realistically in demand and needed for Davao. As we have presented, the demand is actually going down, and yet there are other ports that are in existence and are able to serve it. So what is needed are bulk and break bulk, meaning what? It's for steel structure, heavy equipment, motor cars, whole wheat, and fertilizer. Davao needs bulk cargo facilities for grain, obviously corn, whole wheat, rice, copper meal, soybeans, cement, etc. Of course, we all know that Mindanao is ugly. Sasa Port, as a public port, must cater to all business and all cargo, not simply be limited to container cargo. Or you emphasize banana. Banana is actually taking care of many other ports. The existing private port do not handle bulk and break bulk cargo. So, why should we build something on a wrong assumption and projection? Fourth point. The minimum qualification for bidding is so high that only one company, Manila-based ICTSI, qualifies. The other Filipino company, San Miguel, qualify only because it teamed up with a foreign firm who has the know-how. Otherwise, San Miguel also don't qualify. But this high minimum qualification for bidders will deprive other Filipino companies who are capable, like the ICT, a Mindanao-based company. Please consider Mindanaoans naman. We are Filipino too. So we appeal to Secretary Abaya to lower the qualification so as to give other Filipino company a chance, other than just ICTSI, and San Miguel, who merely come in as an investor, teaming up with a foreigner. Please give Mindanao businessmen a chance. Number 5, bulk and break bulk are as important as containerized cargo to the economy of Mindanao. About 500,000 metric tons of bulk and break bulk cargo are using facilities of Davao Sasa Port every year. Moreover, these should include passenger facility, as this is the only public port. It's not included. Why is this not included, considering that this is a priority of DOT and the only public facility? Should not government coordinate with each other? When this PPP was announced, we looked at the published information memorandum, which come from you, and found no plans for bulk and break bulk facility and passenger facility. Will the bulk and break bulk and the passenger, where would they go if this PPP will be pushed through? Number 6. We, Davao City Chamber, sponsored a public forum last July 10 to give venue for Secretary Abaya and his team to clarify the issue surrounding this PPP. In our observation, many of our members and other participants walked away in that forum with more question than answer. And I realized that your plane is about to leave, so you have to go. So, should I say that you were in a hurry? We think the PPP could have been better handled if there was real consultation even during the planning period. 7. Many observed in the course of our research that the terms of this PPP are not so clear, and I don't like to use the word mentioned by many, not transparent. How can something that will affect more than 20 million Mindanaoans be so unclear? We hope Senator Osman, your committee will subpoena or documents relevant to this PPP so that we will all know, understand, and come up with a more fruitful discussion and later a better decision that will benefit the people of Mindanaoans less. All we know from media report, imagine we have to get it from the media, now, is that this PPP was based on unrealistic business projection. We've read Alex Magno of Philippine Star, I don't know if it's correct, that there is an incredible projection of about 300,000 containers in 1 year, or 27% increase. The Chamber find this unrealistic considering that Davao Sasa Port has less than that volume. Many Mindanaoans have always felt that the national government treats us like third-class Filipino. Well, I personally do not believe that this is the attitude of this administration today. We only need to communicate our concern clearly so that we may reach a happy, rational decision. After all, government exists to serve the people and not make it difficult for the people it serves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaisano. Is there anybody else from Davao who would like to offer a comment?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, from DICT, sir?
You're representing...
The Amphicor Group and Davao International
Yes,
Container
please.
Terminal, sir?
Would you like to say something?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Your Honor, for the invitation, and in compliance with the request for information, Amphicor and the Davao International Container Terminal has come out with their position regarding the PPP project for Sasa Port. Thank you. First of all, sir, a little background on the Davao International Container Terminal, DICT. Tagum Agricultural Development Company, Tadeco, the country's premier producer of export quality Cavendish bananas, and DICT are member companies under the Amphicor Group. I am the president of Amphicor, as well as the president of Tagum of Tadeco and DICT. All through the years from the 1960s into the new millennium, all of Tadeco's banana production and subsequently pineapple production was being exported through DICT, previously known as San Vicente, in Panabo, Davao del Norte, loaded break bulk into refrigerated vessels. However, by 2008, less than half of Tadeco's production was being exported from DICT, while the rest was being exported in refrigerated containers from other ports. As with the majority of cargo, of ocean cargo around the world, fresh banana and pineapple shipments from Mindanao were transitioning from break bulk shipments to shipments in refrigerated containers. Most of our containers were being shipped out from Sasa Port, which could take up to 3 days to load one vessel, that grievously impacted product quality and cost. In 2012, this prompted DICT to invest into an additional berth that could efficiently handle container shipments and larger container vessels that is needed to maintain the global competitiveness of Mindanao's products in terms of fruit quality and cost. DICT is open to all exporters and importers in Mindanao. With the very able support of the Philippine Ports Authority, the Bureau of Customs, our funders, and our partner, Dole Stanfilco, DICT has achieved these goals. DICT is today considered the most modern container port in the Philippines, as there is no other port operations that is at DICT's level of integration and interface. And may I say that one of our biggest fans is Commissioner Bert Lina, who always makes it a point to cite DICT as the example of what a container port should be in the Philippines. We have now some efforts together with the Bureau of Customs to integrate our systems for more efficient releases, approvals, and control of cargo. Within 20 hours of their arrival, DICT completes the servicing of even larger container vessels that cannot dock in Sasa Port, something that would take days in Sasa Port with even smaller vessels. It was mentioned earlier that the new port will take 4 to 6 hours to turn around the vessel. Just simple arithmetic would show that that would be only for a handful, sir, of containers. We service per vessel hundreds and up to thousands of containers on a single vessel. In 2014, a total of 228,000 TEUs were processed in DICT, which is 48% already of the foreign container trade. Together with the other private ports, a total of 75% of foreign container trade is already handled by the private sector. DICT's annual capacity today is 300,000 TEUs, while rated capacity is in excess of 425 TEUs. Total investment was 2.7 billion pesos. Only 400 meters from DICT, Amflocor has developed an export processing zone called the Amflo Industrial Estate, which received its final approval certification from the Philippine Economic Zone Authority last September 2015. This will complement DICT. Already, there are numerous parties from both local and abroad that have signified their keen interest in locating their export operations in the Amflocor Industrial Estate due to its proximity to DICT as the port of entry and exit. Meanwhile, shippers and shipping companies have been eager for DICT to expand its container port operations. Thus, DICT is now rehabilitating one of its existing berths that can handle containers as well as break bulk. This will effectively double the capacity of DICT by 2016, July in 2016. This translates to a total annual capacity of 600,000 TEUs on the conservative side, while rated capacity will be 850,000 TEUs. All this realized by DICT in July 2016 with a total investment of 4.5 billion pesos. On the other hand, the expected capacity of Sasa Port under the PPP project will only be 200,000 TEUs more than DICT, but having spent 19 billion pesos. The issues, sir, Your Honor, that we see surrounding the PPP project for Sasa Port are as follows. There is no need to convert Sasa Port to a container port. The container shipping requirements are already met by the existing private ports such as DICT, Tefasco, Sumifru, Unifruti, Dole, Pacinter, and the planned HIPS. In 2014, already 75% of foreign containers of the foreign trade, totaling 358,312 TEUs, are already using the above private ports. The activity in Sasa today is more for the local trade. The PPP project is based on unrealistic projections. We understand that the DOTC hired the Hamburg Port Consultants, HPC, to conduct a study that would serve as the basis for the Sasa PPP. HPC assumed in the study that container volume in Davao region will grow at an average rate of 6.1% up to 2040. That contains an incredibly high growth rate of more than 20% a year, in fact 27% in the year of 2020, that was front-loaded in the initial years and then compensated with lower growth rates in the tail end of the concession period. These growth assumptions are completely unrealistic. From 2013 to 2014, in fact, Sasa Port container volume declined by 134,504 TEUs, or 33%, and is expected to further decline in 2015. The PPP project, sir, is overpriced at 19 billion. The PPA's original estimate was only 4 billion. The initial PPP proposal by the Philippine Port Authority estimated that 4 billion was needed to modernize the Sasa Port. This was apparently not accepted by the DOTC, who then, together with the DBP and IFC, appears to have commissioned the HPC study. The result was the PPP project cost of 19 billion pesos with unrealistic business projections. In comparison, DICT was built in 2012 at the cost of 2.7 billion, and by 2016, sir, we would have invested a total of 4.5 billion, with a volume capacity nearing that of Sasa Port in 2020 under the PPP project. Furthermore, sir, the PPP project does not have the approval of the Davao City Council. Furthermore, the 5 preconditions required by the Regional Development Council of Region 11 have not been complied with. I'm aware, sir, that you're aware of those 5 preconditions, so I won't go through them. We're likewise concerned that it is the only PPP project, sir, that will compete with the private sector. Government, we feel, should play a commercial role in vital sectors of the economy where there are no industry players. The role of government is to open new fields of investment opportunity for the private sector that leads to further economic development and upliftment. Government should not be looking to compete with existing private sector interests. This is not only a redundant waste of valuable resources, but seriously discourages further private sector investment in the Philippines and thus is counterproductive to economic development. Furthermore, this will worsen the traffic congestion in the northern sector of Davao City. The area of Sasa is already highly urbanized and crowded with commercial establishments and residential subdivisions that already today suffer from severe traffic congestion. The port operations of Sasa and the movement of hundreds of cargo trucks on a daily basis, hundreds of trucks, sir, on a daily basis, concentrated between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. will make the situation unbearable for the area and its citizens. In fact, the DPWH Assistant Secretary Dimas Sugilon stated in the Mimba Forum in Davao that this PPP will create a traffic situation in Sasa as bad as that in and around the Port of Manila. There is overwhelming opposition against this PPP in Davao. The Davao City Chamber of Commerce, the business groups, consumer groups, concerned citizens, sir, are all in opposition to this. The Davao City Chamber, in fact, organized a forum last July 10 and invited DOTC Secretary Abaya and Undersecretary Limcalco, as well as DBP, IFC, and DOTC officials. At that forum, Secretary Abaya and the government officials all clearly heard the overwhelming opposition to this PPP project from all the concerned citizens and groups of Davao. At least 2 city councilors, Councilor Dayan Hirang and Mahipos, were present to voice their opposition to the project. The labor, urban poor, and tourism sectors also spoke against the plan for Sasa PPP. Furthermore, this will displace informal settlers whose livelihood depends on Sasa port activities. The Sasa PPP will affect families who are living in a land that is part of Sasa port. What happens to these families after they are relocated to another part of the city, in Tibunco, is not part of the plan of the proponents of the Sasa PPP. There is no plan for break bulk and bulk cargo, which is important for Davao City, and I won't elaborate on more, as it was mentioned earlier, except for the fact that there are 500,000 metric tons of steel, wheat, fertilizer, motor vehicles, heavy equipment, and other cargo not suitable for containers that went through Sasa Port in 2014, according to the PPA statistics. There is no plan for the provision of cruise vessels, which are important in the tourism plans for Davao City. The Department of Tourism has identified Davao as a potential destination for cruise tourism. This important sector of the economy is where government intervention is very much needed and very much welcome, because there are no private sector players willing to invest in port infrastructure for cruise tourism due to market uncertainty. The tourism sector is one of the strong job creation engines of our economy, as you very well know, sir. And the last concern is that the bidding is apparently being rushed for January 11, 2016, in spite of all these issues. And we ask, why is the rush in the face of all these issues? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Now, before we continue, I'd like hard copies of all your presentations. So would the committee secretary please pick up the hard copies from DICT, Undersecretary's office, Ms. Canilao, and John Gaisano. Let's have some basic facts in again, no? Davao Chamber, can you tell me what's the total amount of cargo imported and exported from the Davao region in terms of TEUs, for example, in TEU equivalent?
Yeah, Mr. Senator, the total number of TEUs in 2014, this is the latest statistics we got from PPA Davao, is 810,427.
All ports?
All ports.
Okay,
810,427
all right.
TEUs,
This is for what year?
2014.
2014. And what was the bulk of the cargo inside the container? Were these mostly bananas? How many percent would be bananas?
For export, that is about 70% bananas.
70% bananas for export.
Yes.
Now, the 810,000, this is both coming and going, no?
Yes, sir.
All right. What was the outgoing number of TEUs?
We don't have a breakdown yet, sir.
Give us an educated guess. That's not going to be difficult. Would Mr. Miole have that number? Who has that number?
Estimate is about 50-50%.
About 50-50?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the 70% bananas, 50%, that's about 400,000 TEUs.
Yes, sir.
Saan po dumaan yun? How many percent went to Sasa? How many percent was shipped to DICT? And I don't know, and DJ, if the Iho plantation is already operational.
No, not yet.
Not yet. So how many percent went through Sasa?
About, because banana is only foreign container, and we have statistics here for foreign containers, about 48% of foreign containers went out of the ICT, went out from the ICT, and another 27% went out from the other ports, Tepasco, Dole, Unifruti, Sumipro.
Unifruti.
Yes, sir.
The other private ports.
The other private ports.
I understand there's a port south of Sasa. What's that port? South.
No,
Wala.
nothing is out there. Only
All
north.
right. So Sasa is the southernmost port in
Yes,
the
sir.
Davao Sea.
Yes, sir.
So DICT exported one half of the
Yes, sir. Of the foreign trade, of the foreign containers, sir, the total in 2014 was 480,000 containers, of which DICT processed 228,000, which is 48%, and the other private ports processed 130,000, for a total of 75% of the total container trade going through the private ports. Sasa,
75% of what?
of the foreign container trade. That's
Export or
import
import?
and export, sir.
No, just give me the export number.
The export for DICT and others, this would be in the vicinity of about,
7,000.
sorry,
107,000.
107,000?
These.
No, about,
That's about 25% only.
That's the 24.
to
Export
export
only, then the import.
and the import.
Same, of the same.
That's only for DICT.
Yeah, DIC.
Okay, for DICT, out of the total of 228,000, import was 108,000, and the export was 107,000, sir.
So more or less 50-50.
Yes, sir. But all of the vast majority of this, sir, is all related to the banana and pineapple industry.
All right, but
because
what
we
did you
import a lot.
import?
Yes, sir. We import huge amounts also for the banana and pineapple industry. Raw materials, primarily roll stock for our containers, for the boxes of and plastics. So about around 80% is all attributable to the banana and pineapple industry, sir.
Pag may dumadating na container na gagamitin ninyo pang-export, no? Ano na sa loob ng container? I doubt if you import that much
Yes, sir. There are empties as well,
supplies.
sir. There is
Yeah.
empties as well.
So they would come in empty.
Many, sir. For repositioning, yes, sir.
All right. Can you trace how much of the cargo that used to go to Sasa in 2011 was absorbed by DICT?
Right.
Because there would be a Peter Paul effect there, no?
Yes, sir.
Out
Yeah,
of one pocket.
because it's a zero-sum
in the
game.
other pocket. So anong kwan yan? Would you say all of your 100,000 containers?
Well, Sasa in 2011, sir, processed 572,000 TEUs. And
Export lang muna. Kaya mo bang-
export, sir.
Can you disaggregate the numbers?
Yes, sir. In Sasa in 2011, they processed 414,000 TEUs.
414?
414,000 TEUs
Export?
in 2011.
Okay.
Import-export.
That's import and export, sir. That's the total import and export trade.
Yeah, but I'm only asking for the export numbers.
The export numbers,
About 50-50.
it's close to 50-50, sir.
Okay, so it's about 200,000?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And
What was DICT in 2011? Wala pa?
Yeah, we were just building it, sir.
All right. And then
And
as
in
the years
2014
went on,
In 2014, Sasa went down to 122,000. That's import-export, so 50-50 again.
both?
Yeah, no, the total international or container trade, the foreign container trade in Sasa in 2014 was 122,000. So that's a drop of about 300,000, and most of that was absorbed by DICT.
122,000 in what year?
2014, sir.
Really?
In 2014.
The numbers I have here was that they peaked at 572,000, and correct me if I'm wrong, who's here from Davao? Mr. Miole. They peaked at 572,000 TEUs, both coming and going in 2011, and in 2014, you're saying that it dropped to,
For the total, sir, would be 272,000.
in 2014, Sasa has on its record, 272,000. Tama ba yun?
Yes, sir, for total, both foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
That's correct, sir.
And DICT has almost close to an equivalent number, 228,000.
228,000, sir.
No.
And the other private ports, 309,000.
And the other private ports are whose?
309,000.
You
sir.
have Unifruti,
We have Unifruti, we have Tafasco, we have Sumifru,
Safasco,
Dole.
Dole. What is the Dole?
It's in Panabo also, sir.
Okay.
Davao del Norte.
They don't use DICT now?
For the container, yes.
They do also, sir. They do break bulk in their own, and they do containers in DICT.
Why would Dole use break bulk when they already have the container?
The break bulk still exists in the banana export industry because of the requirement in Japan. So shipments to Japan do not go out through or with refrigerated containers, so it's all break bulk.
Why?
There's a requirement in Japan that all boxes, banana importations, have to be fumigated. So they're actually brought to a fumigation room and fumigated against pests. A practice that they started
Fumigated here or upon arrival in Japan?
upon arrival in Japan, sir. So there would be double handling if we would be shipping it out in containers. So it goes out in large, fully refrigerated vessels, the very old way of doing it, the very expensive way of doing it. But the Japanese process, as you might be aware, sir, it's very, very hard to get them to change their ways. This is a process that they've been doing, I think, since the 50s or 60s.
Can you not fumigate here before you load it?
We've asked that of the Japanese government, sir, and they've denied that they need to fumigate there, sir.
They said they would think about it.
Yes, sir, for the last 45 years, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, so therefore, essentially what's happening, who wants to argue? Would you like to argue for the DOTC? What's happening is that there's a Peter Paul effect here. The ICT is eating into the market of Sasa. There's a drop from 572,000 to 272,000 in 2014, and about an equivalent number this year, no? So why would you spend so much to expand when you can see that hindi pa tapos yung sa Tagum? What's the economic reason for, what's your economic justification for spending that kind of money, knowing that a lot of these volumes are now going to be used by the other ports? I'm saying this only because the banana plantations tend to be north of Davao, no? So the ICT and Iho would be closer to the source of the bananas. They wouldn't have to truck it all the way down to Sasa.
Sir, if I may add, likewise for all the other ports, they're also all in the north part, sir.
They're also
They're also in the north. All the other private ports.
they're north of Sasa.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
sir. And
I
may I
can see
point out,
that in the map. Yeah.
yes, sir, and may I point out also, sir, that it's not only the ICT, but the other private ports. From 2011, they had 98,000 TEUs, and in 2014, they processed 309. So they actually trebled their numbers as well.
And the other ports have also grown in volume, no?
Significantly, sir.
From 59,000 in 2010 to 309,000 in 2014. And this doesn't count the ICT yet.
Yes, sir, that's correct, sir.
What type of volumes, DJ, are you looking at? What are your projections for
Sasa?
Tagum? Iho.
For Tagum. Basically, what has happened in Tagum, this project was initially conceived about the time or just before DICT was supposed to start. But when we heard that DICT was going to come online, and then in 2012, I believe, or 13, Davao was hit with Typhoon Pablo, which eradicated about 30% of all the plantations in Davao, which have not come back. In fact, they've relocated to Bukidnon and Cotabato. We, in fact, pushed back our plans for Iho, which is why we're also surprised that there's this rush to increase the capacity in Sasa so quickly, because even we ourselves have pushed back our Iho plans to give the market time to recover itself.
All right. That's another, that's right, no? You lost about 30% of production capacity because of Pablo, no? At hindi ayaw na magtanim uli doon yung, it would be cheaper to just develop new lands around the north, south Cotabato area and Bukidnon, no? And they are indeed going there. No? Udifruti is now in North Cotabato.
Yes, I can confirm that, sir.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the expansion is in the south.
So what's the economic justification?
Sir, the three. One is the merchandise imports and banana exports for the Davao Gulf. If you look at it historically, have been growing every year. And if we look at the projections for over the next 25 years, they're projected to grow at between 6 to 8% in totality.
68%
No, 6
per
to 8.
year?
Sorry, 6 to 8.
6 to 8%, okay.
Sorry. And if you compound that...
This is
Mr.
just
Chairman,
exports or exports and imports?
exports lang yan. Exports lang yan, Mr. Chairman. If you compound all of that,
What products? Are you talking only of bananas?
primarily bananas.
Okay.
I don't have the exact breakdown, but most of it is bananas and
This is out of the
pineapples.
Davao area?
Davao Gulf area. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
This doesn't include the production now that's ongoing that's going out through Jensen and going out through Cotabato Port, no?
No, this is just
Wala
Davao
pa yan,
Gulf. Wala pa yan. So if you look at this and compound it, we will need IHO, DICT, and Sasa and Tefasco all to service this growing need. What we're trying to avoid, Mr. Chairman, is in the future we are congested because we did not stay ahead of the curve. So what we have to build now is to address the growing
So you
economy.
and ICTSI don't seem to have the same interpretation. You might have the same numbers, but your analyses are different.
Yes.
They're slowing down, and you're speeding up.
Second, Mr. Chairman, is Davao Sasa Port being strategically located near the city will service a lot of the merchandise and consumption goods for Davao City itself.
And
while ICTSI and IHO
What
would
is the
serve-
volume of that?
I can
today?
get it, Mr. Chairman. I can...
You know, we have a representative here from NEDA, and they should have been the one running these numbers for you, no? Because you have to go through the NEDA technical and NEDA board, no? We'd like to see that study,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
because that's a gigantic leap in your capacity. You're now only, you have a throughput of about 272,000 TEUs, and you're talking of 1.2 million, a capacity of 1.2 million. And that's a giant.
Over the next 30 years yan. It's not immediate 1.2. So that's
You mean to say-
the growth is staggered over the next 30 years.
The actual growth, but the infrastructure is going to be finished already. It will be able to handle 1.2 million already.
Two phases, Mr. Chairman. The first phase will only bring it up to 700,000. And then when they reach a certain level, in other words, na medyo puno na, then the port operator will then have to expand it. It's not an immediate expansion.
All right. There was an earlier study, it would cost only 4 billion to expand the Sasa port. Then there was a sudden jump to 17 or 19 billion. Why is that?
Actually, to compare the two is a comparison between apples and oranges, Your Honor.
Okay.
The 4B, we were aware of that 4B was commissioned by PPA. The draft requirement, there's a differential there. I think it only planned for an 11-meter draft, while this is 14-meter draft. The ground slots are much less. Its forecast was only up to 2021, while we were looking at a longer period. It didn't have a linear key, which would be a more efficient key than what they planned for. But essentially, Your Honor, if you would scale down our study to a 2021 forecast, then it wouldn't much differ. They were just looking at it from, or probably we could show to you a slide on a quick comparison of both studies, Your
And
Honor.
I'd like also to compare costs of DICT with the projected.
Yes, sir, indeed. Like I said, sir, earlier, after we would have completed our phase 2 by mid-July, giving us a capacity of at least, on the very conservative side, 600,000 or a rated capacity of 850,000 TEUs, we would have invested 4.5 billion pesos. May I add also, sir, that in comment to the growth rate of the banana industry mentioned earlier at 6.1%, may I say that I am also the president of the Filipino Banana Growers and Exporters Association. And from 2011 or 2010, which was our peak year, up to today, we have not recovered from the devastation of Typhoon Pablo. We are not yet at the hectareage that we were at that time. In fact, our production has been dropping from that peak. The markets today continue to be flooded. Japan markets are down. China is down. In fact, there's a number of companies that are curtailing.
Japan is eating less bananas?
Yes, sir, because of their winter, they call it the demographic winter. The aging population of Japan eating less, watching their pennies more, budgeting, so the per capita consumption in Japan has been dropping for the last 15 years. China has bottomed out because of a lot of production also from their local producers.
What about the United States? Have we been able to penetrate the U.S. market yet?
Yes, sir. We've had one shipment to the U.S. because it was only last year. It was only last year that we were able to arrive at an agreed trade protocol with the U.S. Today, we do have the ability, but we do not have the capacity. As I said, our production capabilities have been dropping because of the weather. Number one is the weather, and we're coming up to a huge El Nino in a few months, well, I think by next month. And number two, because of the disease pressure, it's the sigatoka, which is a black wilt fungal disease, and Panama disease. And so production in the Philippines actually has been dropping, contrary to what was said earlier, sir.
So here you're being contradicted on your projection of growth.
The big drop was right after Typhoon Pablo, where, for example, Sumifru had the biggest hit. If you take a look at some of the Sumifru volumes, they have been coming up a bit, and perhaps that's what the DOTC was looking at. But still, on the total, if you trend it out in the last 5 years, we are going down.
Yeah, but maybe the base year. What's the base year for your 6% to 8% growth? If you're using 2013 as a base year, I would imagine, yes, you'd be able to achieve 6 to 8%. But if you're using 2005, I doubt.
You're correct, Mr. Chair,
2013. So using 2013 as a base year, you expect a 6 to 8% growth just in the Davao area. Mr. Chongson, they're using a very low base year, 2013. This is after the damage caused by Typhoon Pablo.
Yes, sir. I guess that would explain the disparity in the statements. What I'm saying there, sir, is that from our peak, which was just 2 years prior to that, up to this time, we still have not recovered. We do not have the same hectares that we had planted in 2010,
No, but
2011.
here we're talking annual growth. So if we lost 30%,
Yes, sir.
sure, we haven't recovered the 30%. But if we're now at 70, then 6% of 70 is only 4.
That's correct,
4%. So you might both be right.
Yes, sir. But on the total 30-year, for example, if you were to extend it now for the 30-year concession period, a 6% growth rate in the banana industry is a dream. It's not possible. It will not be met.
It won't happen.
It won't happen, sir.
Well, Your Honor, just on this issue, what we heard from the DICT, they indeed plan to expand. They see a gloomy picture of the banana industry, but they are expanding. Probably they also see a growth some years from now as well. And likewise, if we could share with you, Your Honor,
They might be growing now medical marijuana. That's all.
We won't distinguish on the products, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good export.
But likewise, the PPP, Your Honor, the way we structure it, the market risks will be borne by the bidders and the concessionaires. And if they, like ICTSI is a active bidder right now, they are in the thick of things and they see a good bid here. Our base study is what we've been discussing, and just the fact that the private concessionaires continue to be interested, and if the market falls, that becomes their risk. But as they see it, probably they see it the way we see it, thus they see the opportunity in this PPP project, Your Honor.
That's right. ICTSI paid for the bidding documents.
Yes, Your Honor.
Was that because you just wanted information?
No, Your Honor. There are several reasons that drive that. Primarily, we just had to defend our turf in Davao, and rather than see this project go to a foreign country, we wanted to wave the Filipino flag. But having said that, we're struggling now with some issues on economics, and it has to do with the discussion going on right now. As the numbers that were thrown around earlier, Davao Sasa Port, as it stands today, has a capacity of 742,000 TEU. And today, without the PPP. The estimated 2015 year-end volume, as mentioned by Mr. Miole, is about 300,000. If it was 249 as of October, so let's call it 300,000 for the year. If we were to adopt the 6% growth rate, which I personally think is a bit optimistic, starting from 300,000.
That's about 12 years. You will double in about 12 years, I think. At 6%.
So okay. Just a quick cell phone-based calculation. If we start at 300,000 and grow by 6%, we will get to our current capacity of 740 in 15 years. So we don't even need to make any expansion for the next 15 years. We're just going to be getting to our current capacity. The PPP project as proposed in all of its scale, it's only going to take 24 months to build. So you can effectively start 24 months before 15 years and still be behind the curve. We don't quite understand why the rush to do it now. There was also a sentiment mentioned that we're not comparing apples to apples. It's in fact apples to oranges, because the dimensions and the scales of the 4 billion estimate were not comparative to our scale now, which is minus 14, whereas before it was minus 12. And maybe we should think, do we actually need the minus 14? I mean, yes, we're correct, it's apples to oranges, but is there a need for minus 14? The minus 14 anticipates a 9,000 TEU ship. This ship has never even been to Manila, much less to Davao. When we see this ship in Manila, we will have time to build the Sasa port in time for that ship going to Davao.
9,000 TEU, is that a Panamax?
Yeah. That's probably a post-Panamax, yes.
Bigger.
Yes. So, but this ship doesn't even come to the Philippines. It's a it's not part of this trade. It's not common to this trade. I believe the biggest ship that has come to Davao, which I think came to DICT, was a 5,000?
Yeah, 5,500.
And that was a one single call only to reposition empties. It's a sweeper vessel, which happens only once in every few years. It's not a regular call. So we're far away from this 9,000 TEU vessel and the need for minus 14. So I think we will have time, considering it only takes 24 months to build a port.
Well, the Secretary did say that there will come a time when those 9,000 TEU ships will be pretty standard, and they'd want to be able to dock here. They may not unload all 9,000. They might unload only 1,000 and load another 1,000, but they have to be able to have the draft. how long does it take to, well, when we did it in Cebu about 50 years ago, you had to dredge, and then you had to install some deep pile. You had to go into deep piling before, otherwise the damn thing would collapse. Excuse my French, but how long would that normally take to undertake? Maybe 2 years?
Yes, Your Honor. The whole construction program, including dredging, piling, and building of the deck, will take 24 months.
All right. Now, there's a judgment call here, and then your economics is being questioned. Now, I think the reason also for this is that you're going to have to charge more for the, it won't be cheaper. Given the same amount of throughput, your cost per container is going to go up. Because the proponent will have to charge more, no? By how much more would it go up? Do you have the numbers, Mr. Gaisano? How much more? Jose?
Well, actually, sir, it's regulated. It's not, well, demand
I
is...
know all of these
yeah.
regulating
Well,
things, from the water to the power.
Yes.
Kuning, it's regulated, but you have to guarantee the proponent a return.
In this,
That's why you're in court now with Maynila and
Actually,
Manila
sir,
Water.
yeah. But, Mr. Chair, actually, in this particular PPP, it's not. We do have a parametric formula, and that for the increases in shipment costs, in tariffs. So, as in all other PPPs, it's there already. So, the demand is really absorbed by the private proponent. Now, with respect to the statements issued,
Teka muna.
related din po doon, sir.
Okay. I'm shipping, I'm handling, say, 400,000, 300,000, actually, okay, 300,000 TEUs. You spend 18, 19 billion. You're still handling 300,000 TEUs. How on earth is that proponent going to make his money back? Yes.
That's the beauty nga, sir, of a PPP, wherein they also handle the operations and the marketing. They have their own business model. Aside from ICTSI, we have 4 other bidders, pre-qualified bidders, who are actively asking questions and building up their own business models. They know the risk allocation and the market. If, for example, sir, our estimates, the government estimates, is really far off, then we will have a failed bidding. But if they also have a robust business model based on the terms of our contract, then our assumptions will be proven right, sir.
Yeah, but these are controlled fees, right? They just cannot raise the fees. It's just like the airport, just like the water, just like the toll fees in the highway, north and south, etc. So these are controlled fees. So if you have a certain throughput against those controlled fees, you're going to lose your shirt. I'm not going to put in even 10 billion there and have a projection of having the same amount of cargo, no? Oh. I mean, of course they have their own business model, but if you allow them to charge what the market will bear, then the people of Davao are the ones who are going to have to pay for it.
It's actually, sir, the first, I think, increase comes after the port is built.
The what?
After the first expansion, sir, the first phase of the expansion.
Yes.
That's when the shipment costs will be raised,
Yes.
sir.
So you'll have to have an increase.
Yes, but that's after 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you have that increase, that's paid for by the public, because whoever's shipping, he'll pass on the cost. Everybody does.
And then, sir, based on the surveys, it's still lower than Manila and Cebu costs, shipping costs.
Is that something to brag about?
Still lower, and there was a willingness to pay survey. And that's based
What is
on
it
that.
in Manila and Cebu now? What's this on a cost per container? How?
Like, we can probably ask Land Bank.
I'll give you our estimated computation there. I'll give you a copy. Somebody has to pay. We Mindanaoans will pay.
Well, the Mindanaoans have plenty of money. Yeah.
We'll ask Giovanni to explain the same topic. Those are the figures that we use.
To make a projection in order to break even.
Giovanni, can you please explain?
You have the break-even revenue per TEU.
Per TEU, sir.
But what do they charge per TEU? This average,
The one at the bottom, sir.
the bottom.
That's the current tariff right now. So the our average tariff right now is 1,456.47
That's average revenue per TEU
per TEU
today.
today.
What will it be?
If they only have 300,000 TEUs, they have to increase the tariff by 4,000.
No, but
Well,
Ms. Canilao is going to allow them certain rate increases in a timely manner. Ms. Canilao, what would you be allowing them to charge now per TEU after 4 years when it's over, when the first phase is finished?
Sir, it's about 80% higher than the existing...
80%
yes.
higher.
That's
It's
after
almost
4
double.
years. Yes, sir. 4 years, sir.
Will there be graduated increases in the first 4 years? Wala?
Wala,
So
sir.
it's zero, then all of a sudden you get a sticker shock of 80%.
After the port is built, sir.
Huh?
After the port is built, the first phase of the port
Yeah.
is built, yes, sir.
So this will go to almost 3,000 or 2,500, no?
Sir, it's there in the presentation.
I don't have your hard copy. I'm sorry. So you're going to go to 2,600? No, this is Cebu. Which column do I look at? Proposed Sasa rates for approval? You're going to be double Cebu?
No, it will be slightly lower than Cebu. It will reach, Cebu now is at 4,005.
Yes.
It will be at, Sasa will be about 4,000.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the empty. The empty will be higher than Cebu's empties.
Yes. The empties will be higher than Cebu's empties.
Ang mahal ng empty. It's empty, it's 5,385 for the 40-foot container. Huh?
Yes.
And if that same container were full, it will only cost an incremental amount of 1,005. That's the difference between 5,385 and, huh? And for the 20-footer, it will be only an incremental amount of less than 700 pesos per container.
Yes.
Your empty should be much higher than Cebu empties.
Will be.
Now, compare that to today. What's today's rate, John?
the rate today is average about 1,456.47
For the 20 or 40?
for 20 and 40, and then the foreign and domestic.
No, 1,000.
1,456.47.
1,456 for a 20-foot container.
for TEU, for 20-foot container.
And for a 40,
For 40, twice that. 2,900.
Twice?
Yes, sir.
So that's a big jump. You're talking of going from 1,456 to 4,000 pesos.
The 1,004. This 4,000, Mr. Chairman, is all its stevedoring. It's all the
All in?
all in. That I think that's not the all in. The 1,4 yata is not an all in number.
This is arrastre and stevedoring.
Yeah. Then there is.
What?
Yeah.
What's your all-in cost? I mean, let's do an apples to apples here, no? Or bananas to bananas comparison.
This is the rate right now in Sasa. That's, I don't know what else they charge, but it's arrastre and stevedoring.
It's still 1,456.
Yes, sir. Maybe in a second, this part can confirm that.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Did I hear you correctly that the rate for the empties are more than the rate for the fulls?
No, no.
No?
What I'm saying is that here are the numbers given to me. The rate for the full would be 4,016. The rate for the empty would be 3,367. That's for a 20-foot. For a 40-footer, the rate would be full 6,883 and empty 5,385. Just a small difference.
Technically, regardless of how you cut the pie, I mean, by their own admission, it's an 80% tariff increase,
Yeah.
more or less,
Yeah.
across the board. Now,
Well, it looks more than 80% to me, because 1,456 into 4,060 is it's more than double.
yeah. So I'm just trying to think. No, in a logistics chain, there's this theory of the last mile is always the most expensive.
Yes.
So you can ship a container from South America to the Philippines and pay X, but your last mile will certainly be more than that. So any savings that the shipping line may be able to realize due to the economies of scale of having larger vessels, number one, it's questionable whether they will pass that on to the consumer. The one that will save the money there is the shipping line, not the public.
Where will the shipping lines save money?
On the economies of scale, because we're supposedly building a facility that can accommodate a larger vessel.
I see.
So that is all economics to the shipping line.
Yes.
I doubt if that will be passed on to the consuming public. What the consuming public will see is what they pay on the ground at Davao. And that's the port tariff and the trucking cost. Now, we know that the port tariff may increase by 80% in 24 months, which is the construction period, or when phase one is about to start. We also know that the trucking cost to Sasa vis-a-vis the trucking cost to Tagum or Panabo is almost double, if you can validate my statement. So to the ultimate consumer in Davao, not only is he paying 80% more to the port, he's paying double to the trucker. So his cost to import or export a good.
Why will it cost double to go from Davao to...
Because the banana plantations are predominantly on the north, and therefore trucking to Sasa is twice the distance.
I see. These are for the exporters of bananas.
Which is missed.
Definitely, it would be cheaper to go to the closest port to your...
That's right. That's right. So that overall cost, the 80% plus that additional trucking, is quite a significant number. If I'm not mistaken, trucking from Panabo to Sasa is what, 15,000 pesos? More? Which is compared to the 4,000 or 5,000 of the port fees, the trucking is the one that's going to kill it, not the port fees.
But, Your Honor, if I may, that also works both ways. Goods bound for Davao City, if landed in the other side of the bay, will pay the same cost.
Agreed. So that's why I want to split this into imports and exports. We export mostly bananas. What's that? 70% of our...
Bananas and pineapples, sir.
bananas and pineapples, no?
Yes, sir.
And those are all from the northern part, grown in the northern part, north of Davao City anyway.
Predominantly,
Diba? So you would be closer to DICT and closer to the
Sumifu and Dong,
Iho,
Hips. Yes, sir.
Unifruity
Yes, sir.
ports. Ayun.
Likewise, if we may add, Your Honor, there are also new growth areas for bananas. These are the areas of Maguindanao and Cotabato.
Yes, but they're using another port.
That's correct, sir.
They're not shipping. They're not going to ship through Sasa.
They will not. They don't.
Huh?
But if presented as a efficient port,
They will ship to South.
Malayo yan. I-truck. Where would you be? The closest town would be where? Kidapawan or huh? They can use the Jensen port.
That's right, sir. They do Jensen.
So if you're in the town of Datu Paglas or even further up north, where Buldon or Pikit or whatnot, Pikit would be using the Cotabato. What's the town next? Puyo, yeah. The town next to Cotabato City. There's a port there. That's what they use.
But if it's containerized and quick, so just empirically, Mr. Chairman, because if the argument is we should keep Davao Sasa uncontainerized, if the argument is keep the fares low,
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about not containerizing that, but I'm worried about the cost. Maybe you should scale down the proposed cost, because you're passing on. Look at the rates that we're looking at, no?
the cost, Mr. Chairman, in the logistics chain, is a more efficient port, as ICT, as I said. The shipping companies would then want to go to Davao Sasa because their ships can be loaded and unloaded quicker, and they can turn those ships around very quickly. They'll have larger ships. So in the end, their shipping costs that they will charge to the shippers and importers will be lower. So in
Yeah,
the
but your rates are already
sir,
reflecting higher rates.
The shipping costs, sir, not the arrastre and stevedores.
The freight.
The freight, sorry.
Yes.
So the freight will go down, the time spent will
But
reduce.
you're being contradicted earlier by an experienced hand where he says the shipping companies are not going to pass that on.
They won't pass it, they will keep it, but competition, so Maersk Line will, because if they don't pass it on, so let's say Maersk Line has to compete for that business with APL. If Maersk Line keeps their rates up, all the business will go to APL. So by competition and globalized, and shipping is a globalized competitive industry, they will then have to start reducing their costs, which is then passed on in the logistics chain to the consumer eventually.
But I don't agree that there will be trucking all the way from North Cotabato, even from South Cotabato to Davao. Medyo malayo yan.
We can show you, there are, what do they call, the plantations growing already, smaller plantations on the northwestern side of Davao.
Your Honor?
Northwestern side of Davao. If it's north of Davao, they'll go to the ICT.
Eastern, the other side.
Northeastern, then
Western,
they'll go to Iho.
What's that, west or the left side, whatever. If you're looking at Davao.
The left is west.
Left.
But you should be talking about south of Davao City, not north of Davao City, because north of Davao City, that's where all of the ports are.
South.
South of Davao City, so we're going
Apologies for
towards...
my geography.
Okay. So we're talking about down towards Digos, towards Malita,
Yes.
etc., Davao Oriental and Davao Occidental and Davao del Sur. Okay, so there would be plantations there, but I understand, because I spoke with some of the new growers, they're really going to North and South Cotabato. So this is where, you know, you're talking about Kidapawan, Datu Paglas Town, Buldon, Pikit, Pigkawayan, closer to Cotabato City, and they're shipping out. God, they told me they're shipping out through Cotabato. What's the name of that town? Puyo? Would you spell that for me, please?
Pollok Port, P-O-L-L-O-C, Pollok.
Pollok.
In parang Cotabato, Your
Yeah.
Honor.
That's the Cotabato City port. They're not even using Jensan. And Jensan is a bigger port than Pulyok, no?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Probably could hear some comments from the port manager of Davao. He's saying now that there are no foreign ships in Polyok, and well, I allow him to say his state.
Yes.
Your Honor, there are cargoes from actually as far back as General Santos and south of Davao that are being transported to Davao City. Dole and some bananas. I don't have the statistics, but there are cargoes going there from that area to Davao, but not necessarily Sasa.
There are cargoes being trucked from General Santos to Davao.
To Davao, yes, sir.
Oh,
Depends
Lord.
where, sir. Depends where the boat is.
How much does it cost?
I'm not familiar
Ayan,
with the
mahal.
cost, actually. But they do that some of the time.
Because the movement, Your Honor, is really where the ship calls. If Jensan Polyok was nearer, but there are no ship calls there, therefore it's the same thing with Manila and Batangas. Batangas would be logical, but the ship calls in Manila, so everybody goes to Manila.
Correct.
Sir, can I make a clarification, sir? Yeah, Alex here.
Oh, yes.
I'm using the hat now of the Filipino Banana Growers and Exporters Association. And it's correct, sir, that many of the new plantations are targeted in the southern part of Mindanao, getting away more from the typhoons as the typhoon paths are getting lower and lower in our country. And so it's a lot, they are going up there in Maguindanao, in Tulunan, in Dato Sangki, and in those areas. And all of those cargoes are targeted for exit in General Santos. There are some, indeed, some very little that come up north from the south into Sasa, but very small volumes. If it's Dole would come all the way up to Pacinter in Dole or to DICT. May I add also, sir, that the efficiencies that...
what does Dole use? Dole uses Jensan, no?
They use partly Jensan, part for their plantations there, and also, of course, DICT and their own, what they call Dole Pacinter, beside the DICT.
They have their own...
Yes, sir. Their breakbulk port, sir, which is beside the ICT.
But Dole has plantations also up in Bukidnon also, di ba?
They have, yes, sir, they have highland bananas there, sir, and exiting also through the ICT. May I say, sir, also that that the efficiencies that the Undersecretary talked about with the modern port, those are already achieved actually by the DICT. May I add also that they mentioned a 9,000 TEU vessel. May I clarify that today DICT can accommodate a 9,000 TEU vessel already today with our draft. But as Mr. De Jesus said, seeing a 9,000 TEU vessel here in the Philippines, perhaps I'm not going to see that in my lifetime. May I add also, sir, that actually the tariff rates in DICT today is already 10% lower than the tariff rates in Sasa Port, sir. We're able to do that because of our higher levels of efficiency. Thank you.
Okay. Where's Cosette? She left.
Mr.
Sir, may I be allowed to make some
Certainly,
clarification?
Mr. Tan.
It was mentioned a while ago about cabotage law. I'm a member of Philippine Rubber Industry Association, and I have been exporting rubber since 1987. We are exporting rubber to Malaysia, that is raw rubber. I would like to know if how cabotage law can attract more bigger ship to dock in Davao, because I am an advocate of lifting cabotage law when we started exporting in 1987, because most of the empty containers are positioned in Manila, because Manila is one of the major importer in the Philippines. So when the containers are empty, all of it is located in Manila. We have to ship empty containers from Manila to Davao to load our rubber, because at that time, cabotage law was effective. Any imported foreign container that arrives in Manila, when it is emptied, it cannot be loaded on a foreign vessel because it is classified as a domestic empty cargo. Empty container cargo are classified as domestic.
So
And
the air inside the container is domestic.
yes. And the freight rate of the empty containers coming to Davao is very expensive at that time. That is because there are no feeder vessel coming into Davao. But this time, there are a lot of feeder vessel coming into Davao. We load our cargo in a feeder vessel going to Singapore. Then when it arrives in Singapore, all the cargoes of the feeder vessel are unloaded in Singapore for segregation and for reloading in mother vessel. In fact, our rubber will be unloaded in Singapore, which is already very near Malaysia. It will be loaded again on a feeder vessel going to Malaysia. This is the logic of a feeder vessel compared to a mother vessel. We are mentioning targeting about 9,000 TEU. It is never viable for a mother vessel to dock here because, as mentioned a while ago, this is comparing a jet propeller driven plane and an Airbus plane which is bigger. If you use a bigger vessel, and we believe that it is more efficient, it all depends on how you want to fill up the cargo. As compared to the hotel, you compute the profit based on occupancy rate, but not on the number of rooms the hotel have. Same as an airplane. You run a bigger plane with lesser passenger. That's why they deploy a smaller plane to regional areas because it will make money. Now, if we eye for a bigger vessel, which needs a drop of 14 meters, we will come up with a big estimate.
Wait, is that meters or feet? Meters.
If we will program this, we are targeting a 9,000 TEU vessel to come in maybe 15 or 20 years from now. But this is, we are not sure, because how does a mother vessel come in? You said a mother vessel can come to Davao, unload half of its cargo, then maybe go to Cagayan de Oro and unload the remaining half cargo. That mother vessel will lose money. That's why they send in the feeder vessel, because the consolidating point is always in Singapore. Even the cargoes in Taiwan is going to Singapore for consolidation. And if you say that this vessel, it will come in, definitely it will never come in because it's going to lose money. Then you say sharing of cargo. It was mentioned a while ago that the different shipping companies will be competing with each other if the port will be improved. They are competing with each other, but they are complementing each other. They go into cargo sharing load. It means to say if your vessel is not so full, APL can load with Maersk Line to fill up the cargo of Maersk Line. So when the vessel of APL comes in, Maersk Line will co-share with APL to make the vessel very efficient in its load. But when you speak of competition, they compete, but they complement each other. And the shipping rate and the international rate is fixed. They don't cut each other. So if they receive some benefit out of the very big investment we have on the port, they will not cut down their freight rate, definitely. So I say that if we really want to attain economies of scale, let's not target the 9,000 TEU. Let's make a port which is only 11 to 12 meters depth, which is very economical and viable for feeder vessels to come in. So actually, it is the feeder vessel that makes the freight rate competitive and not the mother vessel. So for purposes of consolidation, if you say a 9,000 TEU vessel, can anybody load that vessel to maximum load if it can sit? If it cannot, it will never come in. Second, another problem, if you say a big vessel, we are loading rubber which has a foul odor and sometimes it drips. It can never be consolidated with those refrigerated van because the shipping line refused to accept our cargo. So if you say that we will load only in one vessel, we don't have the volume also to load one feeder vessel totally loaded with rubber. So it's always a co-sharing load for our rubber. And rubber is one of the major export and one of the bulk cargo also because we load out rubber out of Zamboanga, Cagayan, and Davao. Then another question on the increase of 80%. Once the port of Davao will be completed, I understand PPA makes a uniform tariff. Whatever is the rate of Sasa will be the rate of Cotabato, General Santos, Zamboanga City, and Dapitan.
So you will be raising the rates of all of Mindanao? That's
Yes,
what they're
it will
saying?
be uniform rate implemented by PPA. Thank you.
No, Your Honor, it shouldn't affect all ports in Mindanao. What is going to be established is a level playing field within the ports in Davao Gulf. It shouldn't affect PPA ports outside of the Davao Gulf.
But I've heard that before, Mr. Tan. There seems to be a protocol wherein the Port of Davao dictates the rates for all of Mindanao. What rule is that? Is that in the PPA? Who sets the rate? It would be the PPA, right?
It's the PPA. Because,
PPA, right?
yeah, in simple arithmetic, if the rate of Sasa port is higher than the other port, who will be interested to load with Sasa as a businessman?
Mr. Chair, in Davao City, we have several private ports, private commercial ports, and also private ports. And Sasa is the only public port. When PPA raised their tariff, all the private ports follows. Now, in this case of an 18 billion or 19 billion project,
No, but they're not forced to. They're just being opportunistic.
maybe.
Okay.
Okay. So, once you increase the tariff in Sasa, if the other ports will not follow, then this project of Sasa will be a white elephant.
I don't think so, because what if the port is malayo on the other side? How can they say they're competitive when you have ports in Surigao, in Butuan, in Cagayan de Oro, in Pagadian, in Zamboanga? How can you say that?
At present, Mr. Chairman, ports rate in Davao and Jensan and Cagayan de Oro are the same. Now, let us assume that PPA will not increase in Jensan in Cagayan, just Davao alone. But remember, if they increase in Davao Sasa, all the other private ports will follow. Now, unless the private ports will not follow, then Sasa will be run out of no client, because the rates is going to be high by 80%.
Senator.
If I may add, what we're putting is actually a ceiling. The concessionaire could actually lower in order to compete. So that's the beauty of competition. You have 3 competitive ports operating, or 4 in Davao. That is a ceiling, but if they feel it's their business decision, if they want market share, they'll drop their prices, Your Honor.
Senator.
DICT, where's Mr. Johnson? Yeah, okay. Go ahead. Who was talking? Yes, John, go ahead.
You know, you don't need much brain. You know, I'm in retail. If Schumart increase their price in Levi's from 2,000 to 4,000, I can sell it at 3,500, make a killing, right? And if Schumart does that, then I'll make a killing because everybody will work for me, his business will go down. The problem with this, it costs so much money, then that project is going to die. Now, if I follow them, I'll make a lot of money for doing nothing. This is going to hurt all the Mindanaoans. It doesn't make sense.
You have here the businessmen of Mindanao who are bothered over the cost of this project, knowing that somebody has to pay the piper and they will be the ones who will be paying the piper. Don't you feel that you have to justify this project to them economically? I mean, I have seen, I'll give you an example. This all started with the unsolicited offer for the Terminal 3. It was in the time of Mr. Ramos in 1992. He was the one who encouraged the new Asia Emerging Dragons to come together and make an offer to build Terminal 3. Then suddenly there was a challenge, a Swiss challenge, a price challenge submitted by Piatco. And nobody knows how Piatco was going to make their money. Even the dragons were wondering how could Piatco offer this amount of money to the government. But Piatco was really putting up a shopping mall inside the Terminal 3 to make up for its controlled fees. And there were 14 controlled fees. And then as time went on, they got an exemption on one fee after another, and there were 6 amended ARCAs, amended and restated concession agreement, which the court threw out because they said it's illegal to change the terms of a contract that had been won in an open and fair bidding process. But this is where I saw that you can gouge the public by using that approach. And you did that for Mactan. Highest bidder. Bakit highest bidder? How much are you willing to charge the public? Because we, the users, are the ones who are going to pay the proponent, not the government. So you get your, what was the winning bid in Mactan? 14 billion. But that 14 billion is going to be paid by the users of Mactan Airport in the next 25 years, di ba? Through the fees, the terminal, not only terminal fees, you got 14 different fees at the airport, including parking fees, including apron fees, including the guys who are chandling and cleaning and moving the freight around, etc. So there's something wrong with that model because ang sinasabi po ng gobyerno, sige, bahala kayo. You take your chances. If you feel you can charge 1,000 pesos per car on the South Luzon Expressway, then make a bid because I want my share of that money. So this is what you're doing also in Davao. You have the right to allow the fees to be raised, but it's the people of Davao that have to pay for it. That's the similarity in this model that's been used, di ba?
Mr. Chairman, the advantage of the Davao Sasa is if the winner of Davao Sasa, let's say, charges the maximum ceiling and it's high, the businessmen and the consumers of Davao can then choose not to go to them, but go to DICT, IHO, or Tefasco. What we're giving the Davao is choice. You want to go to Davao Sasa, very quick, but maybe expensive. If you don't like that, you can go to DICT, equally modern. So it's choice.
Yeah, but here you have the location. So it will be a port which will always be utilized because your location is prime compared to the others.
Correct.
All right? So you'll be able to charge whatever the market is willing to pay in this location. Not that it's a great location, because looking at it, I've seen several photos of it, and your traffic there is just going to be awful. Yeah, and you're at the end of the runway, so there's no more expansion.
So, Mr. Chairman, like IHO and DICT have their own competitive advantage location-wise.
Yes.
Davao Sasa has its own competitive advantage.
And price-wise, why are theirs costing only 4 billion to construct, and this is costing?
If we
18
do
billion?
apples to apples, as the Secretary said, Mr. Chairman, if we're just going to construct Davao Sasa to that smaller size as the original plan, the first proposal was, then it will also cost only 4+ billion. The 17 is the 30-year horizon. So that's where it's not apples to apples. If we're just going to do the smaller port for 700,000 TEUs, it will cost about 4 billion only.
Ms. Canilao.
If I may add, Mr. Chairman, again, I'd like to reiterate that this is just the government's estimate. In most of our PPP projects, the submission of the winning bidders, or even the losing bidders, are actually 20 to 30% lower than government's estimation, because of the technology and the innovation that they apply. And since they're going to do the operation as well, then there are some life costs that can be optimized.
Yeah, but you see what I was pointing out earlier. You're calling for a bidding, but the bidding is make your estimate on how much the public is willing to pay, and give me my share. Yes.
True, sir, but also it also depends on their business model. Like for some of our PPP projects, we also evaluated the business model, and based on the business model submitted by some of the proponents, we disqualified the unrealistic projections. So we do have those criteria when they submit their bids, sir.
For example, again, I have to use Cebu because I'm familiar with the Cebu Mactan. The winning bid was about 14.4 billion. All that money goes to government. All. Because the construction cost is separate. The construction cost is about 17 billion. So what the bidder was doing, the proponent was doing, was 14 plus 17 on the total project cost would be 31 billion. So every time the price goes high, the government is happy because mas malaki ang kikitain nila. But when I look at the poor guy there who's going to have to pay for this over the next 25 years, he's the one who's going to pay for that 14 billion. And I think the model should be re-examined, to tell you frankly. It's very simple from the point of view of government. O kayong bahala, you determine what the market will bear and make a bid. The highest bidder, the one that offers me the most money, I'm going to award it to. There's something inherently wrong with that model. Really.
Here, Mr. Chairman, the Davao Sasa is, I think, better because their propensity or their ability to charge a price that is higher will be tempered by the competition from the other ports. So they cannot
What's the competition with Cebu? I mean, they cannot go to Bacolod. They have to fly to Mactan, so that's a captive.
I think, sir, for the Cebu airport kasi, well, the OTC would know this better. Yung commercial revenues kasi ng airports malaki rather than the passenger fees.
Yeah.
So, kaya nagkaiba yung business model between airports and other infrastructure projects.
Yeah, but remove the commercial collection. It's still the same principle. They're bidding 14 billion because that's what they feel they can charge the users of the airport. And if I were the one who was that user, I would say, talagang tinaga tayo dito. You know, the higher the better for government, not for me, the user, diba? I don't know. I haven't seen other models. This is a very easy model for the government to adopt, but I feel that it's not. We're not getting anything back. We're getting a better airport, but we have to pay for it.
Actually, Your Honor, a huge component of the revenues will come from the commercial business, because basically the fees are matrixed. It is not unilaterally determined by the concessionaire, and it approximates inflation, but we try to quantify it so that you have quantifiable bids. But I think the beauty of this is they have to recover that 14B if they do have to. I think a majority of which would come from the commercial side, because there's not much.
Yes, but commercial side is still the passenger, because you will charge higher rent to the guy who's going to sell hot dogs, and he's going to have to pass on that cost to the passenger who buys the hot dog. So eventually, it's still the passenger that has to pay for all of that, diba? And that's a model that bothers me, because it's like saying, okay, tagayin natin yung gagamit itong airport na ito, itong port na ito, and that's exactly it. You've already projected higher rates for the port, and the people of Davao rightfully are objecting to that approach. Yes.
Actually, sir, there's an article right now in the business world that says that the
Right now, you mean today?
Today, right? June, sometime in June pala, sir, that the modernization of the port is supported by the Philippine Exports Confederation, Inc., as well as the small growers and the Federation of Cooperatives in Mindanao, sir.
But not the businessmen.
All businessmen as well, sir, so I don't know which part.
The banana industry is represented here, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, and definitely the banana industry is not in favor of that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Your Honor.
All right. Why don't you, I think, Ms. Canilao, based on what we discussed today, just give us a simplified economic justification, financial justification for this, because I have too many numbers now, and I won't be able to.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to react to the earlier statement that the shipper or the consumer can choose whether it's Sasa or any other private ports to load their cargo. But we have to remember, it is where the ship going to dock. The shipper cannot choose. It is where the vessel is going to dock. If the vessel is the domestic vessel, they dock in Sasa, then all the consumers or clients in Davao City will automatically have an increase of 80%. So you cannot say that, okay, I want to go to Panabo, but the ship doesn't go to Panabo or the ICT. They go to Sasa. So we will be forced to pay that cost, Sir Chairman. And in addition,
what you're saying is you would rather the port is not improved at all, or that the
No.
port is improved but
no, we are not
at a lower
against
cost?
we are not against port modernization, but we are saying that we should develop it in such a manner that is affordable. Wherein I think PPA can manage to develop the port. If they push through with the 4 billion project, they can do it on their own without even PPP. And there is no increase going to happen. And second, in the study of the 4 billion, they were willing to award it for 25 years. And why this 19 billion just adding only 5 more years. And if the cost of the ICT is 4.5 billion, where they can cater to 800,000 TEU, and the EHO proposed project of ICTSI, another 4 billion that can cater to another 800,000 to 1 million TEUs. Why force the issue of a 16 hectare or 18 hectare in Sasa port and develop it to a 19 billion? And in addition, presently, I understand from the ICT, their draft is already 15 meters. And they can even cater the 9,000 TEUs.
You know, there has to be more consultation with the local. When this was approved, this is the RDC. There was an RDC resolution, no? Yes. Endorsing the Sasa Port Modernization Project for public-private partnership, etc. Was there consultation prior to the issuance of the RDC 11 Resolution 118 series of 2014?
Mr. Chair, I'm Peter Lavinia, former City Councilor of Davao.
Mr. Lavinia.
The endorsement of the NEDA National Board came ahead of the RDC. And the RDC merely relied on the resolution of the City Development Council. Under Section 2 of the Local Government Code and Section 27, it is very clear there stated, Mr. Chairman, that national government projects shall have prior consultation with local governments. And the local government body that should be consulted would be the City Council of Davao, not the CDC or the City Development Council. As of today, Mr. Chairman, there is no resolution or ordinance of the City Council of Davao that is endorsing this project.
Don't you ask the local guys?
There was an RDC endorsement, sir, that was issued by the RDC of...
But what's funny is that the RDC chairman is also the owner of the ICT. Dolfo Del Rosario.
No longer, sir. No longer,
chairman, chairperson and presiding officer, Governor Rodolfo P. Del Rosario.
Yeah, he's no longer connected with the Anflocor group, sir.
He's no longer connected with the ICT.
Yes, sir. No longer.
Senator, Davao City Chamber.
Dated 2014.
I think he was signing on behalf of being chairman of the RDC. Governor Del Rosario was no longer connected to the Anflocor group since year 2007, sir.
But he started the ICT project, diba?
Not the DICT container project, that happened after him. But he was, of course, involved when we developed the port as a break bulk port, sir. He led our group for perhaps 20 years.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In addition, even in the discussion at the CDC and RDC level, there was no full disclosure of the plans of the DOTC. So we were all at a loss. We only learned it when they published the information during the bidding already. Even after now, Mr. President, the terms of conditions, or TOR, terms of preference, are not even open to the public. Only the 5 bidders are allowed to have copies of the TOR. And yet, as you have pointed out, the Buenos or the Mindanaoans will be shouldering the cost of this project.
Yeah, I mean, that's always our concern when we get complaints like this, you know.
But, Your Honor, we could gladly give a copy now. It is published in the website. It's accessible to the public. Nothing is being hidden, but we'd gladly give a copy to all participants.
Give a copy, but the thing is, you've approved the project without asking for the approval, anyway, the having consultation with the guys who would be most affected. And you know, that's why the people from Mindanao want their own mayor to be president, so that they will be at least paid attention to, because this is an example of how people have been outside Imperial Manila don't pay attention to the wishes of the...
Mr. Senator, they did not also consult Davao City Chamber. Davao City Chamber is actually the largest chamber in Mindanao. But we are from Davao, they should consult us. They're convincing us to go for Duterte. I have not yet decided. And can you tell them, we cannot access the info that he said we can access. We have no idea.
It's not
Do we have to come
accessible.
to the senator so that they will now give us information?
Mr. Chair, it's actually, we publish it in the websites of the DOTC and the PPP Center.
No, but don't do that. That's not proper. You have to go there and discuss it with them. You did?
Yes, sir. I was invited. I went to Davao. I stayed there for 4 or 5 hours, answering questions to the best of my ability.
Who invited you? Davao Chamber?
Davao Chamber. Yes, Your Honor.
But that was recently only, no? Yeah,
was a forum because
that
we
was
don't
not
know-
before this was...
Mr. Chairman?
When was
Yeah.
that? It's been months, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Not recently. It's been...
When?
Kailan ho ba yun? Oh, July, Your Honor.
Yeah, July.
That's half a year ago.
But you already issued the invitation to the announcement in April.
There should, we can ask and for the exact dates, but for the PPP projects, there are actually consultations with stakeholders, with various stakeholders. Maybe we
Would you like to let the committee know who you consulted?
we will
on this
check for this
project?
particular project. For our PPP projects, we do have consultations, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
And I think our consultants did some consultations
Who's your consultant?
for DBP, sir.
No, kawawa naman ang DBP. You're blaming them. They were just told to undertake the study. What, Mr. Nunez, on behalf of DBP, do you have the expertise to consult on projects like this?
No, sir, but I think we participated in the feasibility study, and part of one of the things that we did was consult our consultant, Hamburg.
Yeah, and then Hamburg just wants to make money, so they will give them a piece of paper and they will draw up any project you want them to draw up.
We will furnish you copies of the consultation that was made by the group, sir, the transaction advisor, and the...
Yeah, but you cannot point to DBP and say DBP was the one supposed to consult.
We also, I remember, I can get the dates, Your Honor. We already also consulted with the City Council of Davao and presenting and discussing the plans.
They did?
I can get the dates. Your
Mr.
Honor.
Lavinia?
What was the question, Your Honor?
They already consulted with the City Council of Davao.
Consultation is different from coming out of the City Council resolution endorsing this project. As of today, there is none, Your Honor.
Do you think that if they spoke to the City Council, they would be able to obtain that resolution? A
I doubt-
favorable resolution?
I doubt very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. How come up to this time there is no resolution objecting to the Sasa project?
It has not come to the attention of the City Council, except for privileged speeches of members of the City Council opposing this project.
Can not those who deliver those privileged speeches file a motion to be voted upon by the City Council?
There is one, Mr. President, but is still pending in the committee level.
Can you not have it rushed? After all, your friend is the...
We will try, Mr. President.
Huh? He will try. All right. Now, let's suspend this hearing. I have another hearing at 1:30, but I'd like the simplified economic justification for this. And you've heard the objections of various interested parties here, particularly our friends, the business community of Davao. So at least the issues will be joined. We would be able to pass it on to them. Know that what you give to me, I'll have to pass on to them and have them make their comments and observations on your presentation. Secretary?
Your Honor, I'm just probably, if I have the chance to ask DICT, if the cost per TEU is more expensive or cheaper than Davao, because the information we have, it's actually more expensive to ship to DICT. And if the businessmen are complaining of higher cost, if we don't do anything in Davao, keep it in its sorry state, they will ship to DICT, end up paying more. That's why we want to modernize Davao, make it competitive, have competing for competitive ports, and that will drive down costs for businessmen, Your Honor.
Your Honor, that's completely false, sir. DICT is profitable. You can check we're a public company. You can check our financial statements, and our tariffs are lower than Sasa Port today, and we are profitable. We are currently 10% below the tariff, the PPA tariff rates. Per TU. We are not operating at a loss. Definitely not.
Maybe I could ask our AGM for PPA, Raul, to answer.
Mr. Santos?
Yes, sir. Morning, sir. Basically, the arrastre is lower, but the stevedoring is higher. So total, like for example, for a 20-footer, arrastre is 1,072. Stevedoring is at 663.
All
for a
in.
total of 1,700.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the ICT, for the same 20-footer, all in is 2,400.
So mas mahal ang DICT?
Sir, because we have there's a craneage charge. We have the very efficient gantry cranes, the key cranes that achieve 27 moves per hour, and that's why we can finish one vessel within a matter of hours versus Sasa.
Actually, what we're looking is, can they at least keep their costs at that level so that but not double DICT.
Yes, Your Honor, we want to be equally as efficient as DICT because as private ports, they have the authority to refuse cargo from other, like small banana growers. Of course, they'll allow their bananas to go first as compared to the small banana growers. What we want in Davao is for the small banana growers to have the same efficiency as DICT.
I take strong exception to that statement that we might do that to the small growers. We have, in fact, dedicated a large area for small growers to consolidate their shipments there. No other port has done that, but we dedicated an area, very modern, with a shed exactly for the small growers, because we want DICT to be open to all shippers.
All right. Okay, so any last comments?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes,
if the TC foreseen tariff increase of 80% were reduced to maybe just the same level as the ICT, whether you say they're higher, lower, or the same, do you think you will have a successful bid? If you don't allow for an 80% increase, will all these bidders that you say are very optimistic today, will there be economies of scale given the extent of the capex needed? Or is the 80% the number that is needed to make the project viable, which is why you're allowing the 80% increase? Mr. Chairman.
My comment, before you answer, my comment, it all depends on the extent of the work. If you're going to go 14 meters, I know that's very expensive. But if you say, okay, can you limit it to 12 meters, it's going to be much cheaper.
Mr. Chair, but the way that the bid document is written today, you don't have that choice.
You don't have the
choice of going to 12. It's mandatory. In other words, while DOTC says the bidder can bid whatever number they want, and it doesn't have to be 17, if their cost is only 5 or 6, then so be it. But there's no way you can do it that way, following the terms.
Yes, they have to adjust their terms of reference.
Yes.
To be able to bring the cost down.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The question, Your Honor, is if you lower the 80%, will it still remain viable?
It will.
Yes, sir.
It will remain viable at whatever thing along the curve. No, it's just the quality of service. Do you want a Rolls Royce also? If we'll be happy with a Toyota. I mean, if the people of Davao says, happy naman kami sa Toyota, ba't pa tayo bibili ng Rolls Royce? O di yan ang ibigay natin. Because the cost of doing business in Davao will certainly increase. You have what is known as, you have a natural monopoly. You have the only port really in close to the city of Davao. So that is a monopoly, and everybody would have to deal with that monopoly if you want to do business in Davao. Just like there's only one airport in Davao. There's no choice. There's no other airport to go to, and if you say the airport is going to be made of gold-plated materials, then I know we're all going to have to pay for the gold-plated, di ba? Why don't you give them a choice? Yes.
Actually, Your Honor, if I might as well take advantage.
Yes, sir.
ICTSI, if 80% is lowered, will it still be viable for you?
Depends to how much lower. We're already struggling as it is to make a viable offer. And I think because we have the advantage of being there on the ground already and knowing realities that the other bidders don't. And I can only imagine if we're struggling, they must be struggling too. So I'm just thinking, I just want to carry on a statement made by Mr. Chua earlier. We are also concerned about this white elephant possibility, that if we have this very Rolls-Royce type of facility wherein we have to charge Rolls-Royce rates, our clients that is already on the downtrend now might even go lower and move to other available terminals in Davao, which will only make the winning bidder even more financially in trouble as time goes by. And you may have somebody, it's very possible that you may have a winning bidder, you may have an award, but then a year later, that bidder becomes bankrupt, pulls out, and we have to do the process all over again. So, I mean, I think what we're trying to say is it's not enough to have a successful bid. It has to be sustainable long term, because if we have to repeat the process again in 2 years, we've gained nothing.
Senator, we'd like to inform you, we do not know the documents. Can we request for a copy, because it remains to be invisible and unknown? That's why we have to rely on Alex Magno.
Are you talking what
No,
the
we can't
Secretary?
access that.
No, that's not.
Terms of reference?
No, that's not the one.
Which one?
They're asking, Mr. Chair, if he's asking about the info memo, about the, what do you call this, the publication, the instruction to prospective bidders, and instruction to pre-qualify and to bid, it's all in the That's the TOR. That's the macro TOR of this particular project. If you are asking for the draft concession agreements, those are only given to pre-qualified bidders. I'm pretty sure Mr. De Jesus wouldn't want that open until it's signed and awarded. That's the time that it becomes a public document, and we actually provide copies to the Senate and to the Office of the President and the lower house.
If you want, you have to bribe DJ there because he has a copy.
I'm sure he cannot be bribed. He said he might go to jail because he signed a confidentiality agreement.
All right, and in any case, we'll await that information from you. We'd like you also to touch base with our friends from Davao. Mr. Lavinia, see if you can get the Davao Council to protest why Imperial Manila is dictating upon Davao again.
Yes, Mr. Chair. And if we also would like to, the Chair to look into the reason why the PPA General Manager resigned yesterday. What could be the reason? And we should also look into the membership of the board of the PPA. We understand there has been changes during the past 1.5 years because some members were objecting to this project. Maybe it would be an interest also for the investigation of the Senate.
Do they resign because they object?
They were replaced, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor. I met with Jim Santana on Monday. He gave his resignation letter. He had 3 resignation letters before, which he didn't pursue. But this he actually gave to me, and immediately I asked him, why are you leaving us? We want to keep you there. We're in our last stretch, and we're in last 2 minutes. He basically said it was really his family and fatigue. Then I asked, could you stay on? And he showed me the letter of his son. I read it, and pag ganun po, ay tumitiklop na ako when I hear and read family matters. So, and I specifically asked him, is this about Davao Sasa? No, Your Honor. No, Secretary. Definitely not about Davao Sasa. Because I wanted to check if it was a big issue for him. But he explicitly said it is not Davao. It is family and fatigue, and has sent word to the President, Your Honor.
So who's the new one? Wala pa?
Wala pa po. It's effective December 31. With regards to the composition of PPA, there have been changes, but more on the ex officio members. So it's up to the, like NEDA had changes, DOF had changes, but of course the secretaries could change and a replacement is immediately deployed, Your Honor.
Now tell me something. There have been, our friends from Davao had been complaining about this, and they had to come all the way to the Senate and for us to call a hearing to get all sides together to be able to ventilate their take on the issue, no? But is there any way, don't you have any way to accommodate the private sector without having to go to other departments or agencies of government or branches of government to...
Your Honor, Yusek Timi, who has been on this, has gone to Davao twice. I myself went there, spent 5 hours really answering anything that they could throw at me. And I answered to the best of my ability, Your Honor, not as if we refuse to listen or would refuse to fly to Davao.
Now tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. Would you be happy with a lesser cost?
Sometimes more costly is cheaper. And we are heard right here in the Senate. We seem to have more information.
Who has more information?
We, the people of Davao, the business sector. There are many things that was left unanswered until today. So,
are there more things that are still unanswered?
Oh yes, we need to see the TOR, all the what is required, so that the other...
TOR naman is in your website. Is it available? No.
Sir, Mr. Chair, the invitation to pre-qualify to bid, which is actually the basics,
That-
major scope of the project, the information memorandum.
And that's only for sale.
No, it's in the website, they're accessible. What's not accessible in the website are the draft concession agreements and the other documents that we are still working on together with the 5 pre-qualified bidders.
Mr. Chair, we've seen that document, and it has a very long disclaimer before it.
Very,
That we've seen that document, and it has a very long disclaimer in front of it. They can change that document at any time.
They're very smart. Can you imagine being able to change the contract at any time?
But isn't that onerous? You sign an agreement and your wife said anytime you can leave it, but you can't leave her. Hindi mo pwede yun.
Your Honor, anytime changes are made, we immediately publish.
At our expense, Mr. Chair. At our expense. They can just change it immediately, anytime they want, without informing the public or conducting a consultation.
Mr. Chair, for the record, we don't change anything arbitrarily. If we change a major component of the project, we have to go through the approval process, go through the Investment Coordination Committee, go through the NEDA board. So I take exception to that statement. We don't change anything arbitrarily.
Mr. Lavinia, unfortunately, that's the way contracts are pursued by government. They have to have the power to change.
But without
It just has
consultation,
to
Mr.
be
President.
transparent. I mean, sometimes something comes up, and you have to be able to keep that option that palitan natin ito, but it must be transparent. It must be made known to all the bidders. Now, you're saying here, how come the public, that's the one who's going to be most affected, are not given that type of information? And maybe you should answer that.
Yes, Mr. Chair. For example, any rate increase or adjustment by the PPA undergoes through a very tedious public hearing system. But in this case, normally the increase is only 5 to 10% every 3 years. But in this case, they will be allowing the concessionaire to immediately increase by 80% without public hearing. And every 3 years thereafter.
You see why they're in power? Yes, that's a very valid
There will be public
point.
hearing for that, Your Honor. Before we go through the same PPA process of public consultation.
The 80%?
Yes, Your Honor.
When will that be? Because you're already conducting a bidding.
Right before the increase, Your Honor. So it's not yet implemented. Definitely, obviously. It's
Wait a
not.
minute, there's a proponent. He's going to bid. He paid for the bidding documents. And you're telling him, you know, we still don't have approval on this 80%?
There will be a similar to other concession agreements. There will be a top-up provision, Your Honor. If PPA decides it's too much, then government fills in to keep the concessionaire whole and not pass it on to the consumers and users.
Yeah, definitely, because it's the consumers and users that end up paying for all of this. You know that. We know that. And that's why there's an objection. If there were no cost to them, we wouldn't be having this hearing at all. So in fairness to them, who will be made to pay for this for the next 50 years, 30, but tutuloy rin yan. Tataas pa nga yan eh. Di ba? It's never going to go down to zero. It's never going to go down to what it is today. It can only go higher. But so this is a form of taxation. You've got a monopoly. You're allowed to charge whatever it is you feel is justified, but it's like a form of taxing. And you have to ask them first and give them a choice. Can I pay less? That's the first thing they'll say. So sure, you can pay less, and this is what you'll end up with. But always in a democracy, it's the people that make those choices. Certain communities will say, yeah, we want a Cadillac, we want a Rolls Royce. Other communities will say, teka muna, Toyota lang muna tayo. And I might be insulting Toyota because they'll get mad at me. So I'll say Kia or Hyundai. But they have that. They must be given that choice.
Actually, Your Honor, if we just consider a public service hat and you allow that top-up provision taken to the extreme, we could build this port efficient, modernized with all the gears, keep it at current levels. That will kill all the competition in Davao Gulf because you have a very efficient port, highly subsidized by government, at same fares.
You have to explain that to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that will kill the other ports, Your Honor. That's why we're not heading that way, because we. We have to hear the port operator, sir. For businessmen.
No. I think what you should think first is what will help the consumers and the public in the Davao region.
Probably get concurrence from the port operators of Davao Gulf because they'll object to this.
In the first place, I think the private ports, they invest already. They put in money, even PPA or DOTC did not come in. You're supposed to come in 10 or 15 years ago, but you didn't do anything. And now the private ports are developing and you're not trying to compete with them.
I think that's the very purpose of the PPP.
Now, you maintain the price today. You develop the port at 18 billion, we do not mind.
See, they have very smart businessmen also in Davao.
Your Honor, may I comment?
Yes, Mr. Tan.
Actually, in a business, it's the survival of the fittest. If you improve the services, just like before with PLDT, it will take you 5 to 10 years to get a line and you have to pay 50,000 to get one. And PLDT said it's a crowded industry. But when telecommunication industry was open, PLDT became so big and become more efficient because of competition. Competition improves services, but it does not necessarily kill the competitor because the competitors have to improve when the existing operators have to improve once a competitor comes in. In the airline industry, only Philippine Airlines was available before. When you book a ticket, they will tell you it's fully booked, not available. But when you ride the plane, it's only half filled. But now that it has been open to competition, it has become very competitive and cheap. And PAL did not close shop. They are still here. So actually, competition does not kill. It improves. In a business where there is no competition, the business will run bankrupt. You know why? In a business where there is no competition, it means to say the market is diminishing. But in the business where competition becomes stiffer and stiffer, it means market has grown so big, the competition has been very steep, and you have to improve your competitive edge to stay in the market. So I believe competition does not kill. It improves the market. Thank you.
We fully agree with Mr. Tan. We're just making Davao competitive, Your Honor.
I would like to make a last comment and recommendation. Now that we are given the opportunity to voice that we, the businessmen from Davao, are not against the modernization of Sasa, but we are in favor of making it competitive. Instead of waiting for the 9,000 capacity TEU vessel to come in, why not build it as competitive as what the ICT is doing? Minus 12 or minus 11 or minus 12. Compete with them. And I say the ICT might welcome that kind of competition because it's a healthy one. We built a 9,000 capacity cargo vessel to come in, but when that port is built to that capacity and the vessel does not come in, what will we earn? we will build a bigger capacity only as the need already comes in within 5 to 10 years forecast. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? There being none, let us suspend this hearing pending getting the information that the DOTC will give us.
Can I have
Yes.
one last thing? I understand, Mr. Chair, that the 17 or 19 billion project is the project cost only. And as stated earlier, they mentioned that the 17 billion is just a government estimate. Government does not come out with estimates and it will be turned out to be wrong. They came out with this estimate, they more or less know that is the project cost. So whether you put in the 17 billion or not, if I am the contractor or developer, more or less I can save maybe 10 to 20%. But I still have to spend around 15 billion or more.
It might cost more because this is a bidding,
And
just
in
like they did in Cebu.
Yes. In
How
addition-
much the government
In addition,
will
Mr.
make.
Chairman, when Secretary Abaya was in Davao, he mentioned that whoever will offer the highest concession fee
That's right.
will win the project.
That's right.
So what you're saying that if the developer or the contractor or the terminal operator can develop the port in 6 or 7 billion, they are okay. But remember, your specifications, your requirement, your criteria cannot allow whoever the builder to develop that in 6 or 7 or 8 billion. Because you have an agency estimate already. And as a matter of fact, you hire a consultant from Hamburg. Then you have to fire that consultant. Because if the consultant gave you a 17 billion estimated cost, and here you say that it can be built in 5 or 6 or 7 billion, fire him. Because as if you're saying,
he's already paid.
Your Honor, well, just to share the Mactan Cebu PPP, government estimate, we were willing to give a 4 billion subsidy. Babayaran pa po namin para magawa lang. But because of competition of 7 world-class operators, they paid us 14 billion to do it. So that, but we have enough safeguards such that it would be within the same framework.
is
But
the-
again, just to show, I think private sector would do a better job with their technology and expertise, could probably do a better job in all this infra. And competitions allows that to come out, Your Honor.
we do not question the private sector can do better. Definitely the private sector can do better. But you have a project cost of 17 or 19 billion plus another concession fee. Then that brings up the cost of the project. And if I am an investor, I have to recover every single centavo that I put in, plus the profit for that project. Now, if there are two things only can happen. You get somebody who will bid for the project and turn out to lose money because of the 300,000 TEUs only, ang volume, or they will have to charge you at a higher rate as estimated by the Davao City Chamber at 274%. To recover their costs. And if not, the government has to subsidize. Or the taxpayers have to pay. So those are the things that we do not want. We are not against modernization. Sasa port need to be modernized. I have been a cargo handler for Sasa since way back 1976. In fact, we were earlier than PPA. We were only asked to integrate in 1976. So we have been serving the Sasa port for 39 years. So we're not against modernization. But you have to make sure that the cost in doing business in Davao will still be cheap and competitive. My experience as a cargo handler, every time we ask for a tariff increase from PPA, just 5 or 10%, it took us several years. In fact, they had to conduct a public hearing in consultation with the Davao City Chamber of Commerce and other business sectors, and even the local government. But this one, automatic rate increase of 80%, and every 3 years you're going to increase, If I am the concessioner, I invest, let's say, 17 or 19 billion plus another 2 billion or 5 billion concession fee. I have to recover that. And how do I recover it? I have to have a rate increase if the volume is not there. So I think we have to really restudy it.
All right? Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming today, and we're hereby suspending this hearing. Thank you.